Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 2023 PAAL Summit. We are now live. I'm so excited to launch our summit today on Thursday, December 7th, 2023. My name is Adriana Gaviria, and I'm part of the executive team of the Director of Technology and Innovation. And welcome, everyone. Feel free to comment and on social media. We'll be checking out your thoughts. And now I'm going to pass it to Tamanya.
Hola, hello. My name is Tamanya Garza, and I'm Tamanya M. Garza, and I am coming to you today as the Executive Director of Community and Justice Initiatives for PAAL. I'm thanking you all for being here virtually later on today, whenever you have a chance to view this, and especially everyone in the room. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to begin with the land acknowledgement and our community agreements. So I'm coming to you from the land of the Lenape people, whose historical territory includes the places colonially known as Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Long Island, and the lower Hudson Valley. For more than 10,000 years, the Lenape people have been stewards of these lands, as well as the river of human beings, or the Delaware River. Over the past 250 years, many of the Lenape people were forcibly removed from their ancestral lands and dispersed throughout the country, though some families remain. These families continue the traditions of their ancestors to this day. The violence that removed the Lenape people from their homeland is a powerful part of the history of Pennsylvania, and we acknowledge that in this moment we work and live on these very lands. This is the story of our entire country and many countries across the globe. We encourage you to learn about the lands where you live and work and the history of people who lived there before colonization, many who still live there today, though they are often starved of the very resources they protected for so long, including access to housing, sustainable food practices, safety, clean water, and the land where they once lived with their families. Educate yourself on the history and learn about the art, language, cultural traditions, ongoing struggles, and the joy of this community, and find active, sustainable ways to support as an accomplice. The Land Back Movement, Water Protectors, Creating Safety for Indigenous Women and Girls, and Two-Spirit and LGBTQIA members, Creating Access to Affordable Food and Water, Voting Rights, and Hiring/Uplifting Indigenous Artists are great places to start. This information was provided in part by www.lenape-nation.org. Right, I'm going to move on to our community agreements. These were created by members of the PAAL executive team, and the PAAL executive leadership as a united shared leadership team acknowledges and supports these agreements. First, we will enter the space with respect, curiosity, and grace. We will care for ourselves and the community by protecting the intention of these agreements and of the space. We welcome all caregiving responsibilities and realities in the background or foreground of any meetups, phone calls, and exchanges, and embrace your life in our pursuit of productive and supportive practices. PAAL is an LGBTQIA+ affirming space. All language that includes but is not limited to mother, parent, dad, caregiver, etc. applies to any individual who identifies with that term. PAAL commits to the anti-racist and anti-oppressive roots in our structures, practices, policies, principles, and producing. We will not make assumptions based on race, gender, disability, sexuality, age, religion or spirituality, skin color, nation of origin or immigration status, military service, body size, or status as a caregiver. We will ask questions with care. It's not anyone's job to educate us about their life experience, and if they choose to share, we will be thankful for their contributions and keep any information we learn in confidence, and we understand that this part is a live stream. We will have a private Q&A later, unless we are authorized to share it beyond the room. You do not owe us your trauma. If you choose to share any life experience that is traumatic with us, please do so in a way that keeps you safe. Also, please understand that all information shared in this room, especially during the Q&A, will remain confidential and can only be shared outside of this room with explicit permission of the person who shared it, though this portion is public. Excuse me. We will discuss topics that may be painful or otherwise triggering for those in the room. Should you need to take a break, please feel free to step away, to turn off your camera, or do whatever is needed to care for yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. Return when you are ready, or if you are ready. We will use the Oops Ouch protocol. You can look that up online if you're unsure of how that goes, for events or speech that are harmful or offensive. Interrupting each other, speaking over each other or for each other, or asking anyone to prove themselves will not be tolerated. We would like this to be an affirming and supportive experience for us all. Think on how we can create that experience for you. We will begin this gathering with a land acknowledgement, which we just did, and encourage you to familiarize yourself with the history of colonization on the lands where you live and work. We realize no space can ever be truly safe, but authentic safety is the goal. The pursuit of safety is ongoing and requires commitment and dedication from the entire group. We recognize that specific forms of oppression each person experiences can deeply impact where and how they experience safety. Guidance on safety was inspired by the work of Intimacy Coordinator Michelle Morgan, CSE, and guidance on intersectionality inspired by the work of Kimberly Crenshaw. If there is harm, we may stop this gathering. We will name the harm. We may ask participants to join in a breakout room to discuss next steps. We will ask the person who committed the harm how they would like to proceed, and who experienced the harm, I'm sorry about that, how they would like to proceed via the USAT protocol. We may ask participants to leave if they participate in harmful behavior. We understand that intention is different than impact. We make ourselves available to process with those who experienced harm or anyone else who would like to do so afterwards if this is supportive. We may come to a group decision to ask a person or persons who caused harm to take a short break and or leave the space once we have discussed the situation with them and the production team. And we will make this a space of transparency, questions, and accountability practices. We acknowledge that PWIs, or predominantly white institutions, contain biases that are they're often not designed for members of historically marginalized groups to succeed. We will do everything possible to name and confront these biases and create boundaries and systems that are supportive, affirming, and intentional in their aim to ensure all participants and attendees have space to thrive. Guidance on boundaries and BIPOC surviving PWIs inspired by Noelle Diane Johnson of Artist Heal and the team at Art Equity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We just uphold everything Tamanya shared as a unified leadership team. And I also want to share a thank you for everyone who is listening live and watching from wherever you are, whether that's with your littles on the floor or whether that's at work while you're trying to meet a deadline. And we just want to speak into the space right now that we're so grateful that you're here. If you are watching live and you want to join us in the Zoom room, we have some folks here where we will be stopping the stream and doing Q&A after each stream session. So please know that's always available to you to use the link in the caption. And that's the invitation. Thank you so much. I'll throw it back to Adriana.
Thank you, Rachel. So now we're going to, I'm just going to give you, like Tamanya mentioned, we're going to have a session that we're going to have an opportunity at the end to do a Q&A. So we'll stop the stream, but if you want to come join us, go to PAAL Summit / summit so that you can register for all the events this week and also to join us in these internally in the Zoom meetings. I guess I'll just, we could go around and introduce ourselves a little bit more formally. Rachel's going to share this amazing deck that shows a little bit of a personality about us. It's like vibrant and colorful. So who's first? Is it who's first on the Garza? So all of you can learn a little bit about us. So Garlia, take it away.
Hello, thank you again. Hello again. So my name is Garlia Cornelia Jones, pronoun she, her. I'm the National Executive Director of Producing for PAAL. I'm also the co-founder of Bump Fest, which is the Black Motherhood and Parenting New Play Festival with Rachel. And Bump Fest is a partnership between Blackboard Plays and PAAL. Blackboard Plays is an organization I founded in 2008 to support the stories of Black playwrights. So we're given first readings to Jocelyn B.O. Schoolgirls and Journey Cooper's Mo, and Blackboard serves as a space to focus on play development for Black playwrights. I have also, Rachel also has on here that we recently, in a partnership with another producing partner I have in Detroit, Johnson III of Obsidian Theater Festival. We recently received a melon funding, which is really exciting, and is able to support a Blackboard in this Bump Fest shared programming between Blackboard and PAAL, which is we've started the development week this week, and so I've just been popping into rehearsals, and I can't be more thrilled to be in spaces where we're telling stories about caretakers and Black families, right? And to be in a space of Black identified women who are talking about care and their moms and daughters, and just being able to make a space where that existed is 100% because of PAAL and Blackboard and this partnership. And we have these cool t-shirts, Black Parents Make Plays. Shout out to Kaya Dunn. These photos are from the Black Theater Network Conference, which has been a really nice space to be able to meet some Black parents around the country and theater, which has been really cool. And then you see this photo with Hannah and Taki. Hannah Sharif was the artistic director at St. Louis Rep and is now a Arena Stage, and Nataki Ogi was at Oregon Shakespeare Festival and is now working with One Nation One Play. I do not want to mess up the name of the organization she's working with right now, because it literally just slipped my mind. But it's just it has meant the world to find camaraderie and friendship and sisterhood with Black women and moms as artistic leaders. That has really meant quite a lot. And Bumfest also shout out to Kaya Dunn. Like, these pictures are just making me think of a lot of things. So Kaya Dunn in the black tea is an intimacy director, and she also is a professor at Carnegie Mellon. And Kaya will buy t-shirts for Black parents on shows that she's in and just hand them out, which is such a beautiful practice, and it's so exciting to have such a great ambassador as Kaya is. So that's a bit about me. I was the first child care recipient from PAAL back in 2018, 2019, and so that's how I met Rachel, and we sort of just hit it off from there. And so PAAL has been instrumental in my life, even as I aim to make spaces for other parents and for Black parents in rooms, and sort of say, it's okay, you can have your kid here. My kid is currently here. Don't worry if you have to turn off your camera or go away. Like, we know that you're still here, and you're present. And I think even figuring out work schedules with children, right, is something that I, as a single co-parent, am constantly figuring out, okay, how, what are the hours that I have just to work before I have to go pick them up from school. And then once that's done, it's the shuffle of what activities, and just really thinking about how we can make these things a bit better for parents in the arts. And all of the parents you see on the screen, that's something that all of us have in common. Everyone's trying to figure out how to make this thing work. So I will stop babbling there and hand it
No
off.
babbling. We're getting to know not at all. Thank you, Garlia. Oh,
Adriana,
okay.
you're next.
And I'm next. So my name is Adriana Gaviria. My pronouns are she, her, ella. I have long dark brown hair. I'm wearing a gray top with black polka dots, and I have the healing wording behind me, our structures or support ourselves, which are the themes of the PAAL Summit behind me as the virtual background. I'm the Director of Technology and Innovation for PAAL. I'm also the co-artistic director of the Soul Project. I love, Rachel, that you put the Diane Rodriguez Tetrista Award here. This is a very special award that was created. Diane Rodriguez was a multi-hyphenated artist and a generous, beautiful soul and human being who passed away during the pandemic, and worked a lot with the Latinx Theater Commons as well as with many other folks and organizations across the country, a huge advocate and actor and director, et cetera, et cetera. And in order to honor her life and her legacy, award was created called the Diane. During the pandemic, the first recipient was awarded this award. And then this year, I'm the second recipient of the award. It's a huge honor. I cried when I was told it's an award that your fellow colleagues nominate who the recipient of the award is. And that meant a lot to me. Just because I looked up so much to Diane and who she was as a person and her work. I just admired her so much. So thank you for putting this here. And I love producing the summit. I can't believe this is our 5th year. This year we are offering in-person events, so we are moving. We're doing those 2 offerings. We had to move a little bit away from that. But this conversation is about shared leadership, and I can't tell you enough how amazing it is to be able to have collaborators who are yes and people, as Rachel always says. It's wonderful because we do move in different functions in different places and different orgs or different projects, and it's wonderful to be able to just talk about things, right, that we experience, that we run into, or that we may not necessarily understand, but maybe things are not sitting right. And so it's wonderful to be able to talk with each other, our experiences, and then learn from each other. And so I'm really excited about diving into that a little bit more. So thank you again. Tamanya.
Hello again. Tamanya M. Garza. I am the National Executive Director of Community and Justice Initiatives, as I said. As you'll see on here, I'm the director of the National Chief Representative Program, and and I am also the Chief Representative for Philadelphia. That's actually how I started with PAAL. And what that is that's a group of people throughout the country who are located in different cities, who are caregivers in theater, who want to help us with this work, who want to bring in new ideas, who want to make sure that what is going on in their city is known on the national stage, but also share ideas and share practices and create community with each other. It's a real honor to work in this program. I love working on it, and we have people in the Bay Area and in New York and in Nashville and Detroit and just all across DC. Like, I don't want to leave out any of the cities, but we have lots and lots of people across the country who again contribute to the rich fabric. Speaking of shared leadership, bring it back to the rich fabric of PAAL. So that's a really incredible program. And we meet once a month and we share, like I said, lots of ideas, lots of practices. And it's so interesting to hear how things like COVID or caregiver affinity spaces or getting in front of things like unions to talk about these issues is handled differently in different cities. And I think our work becomes stronger because we can talk to each other and we can bounce ideas and we can feel less alone in this work. Because advocacy is also often about challenging systems, and that can get hard and that can get lonely. So it's really important, I think, to know there are other people out here who are doing the work too. On here it says I'm the director of the very more award-winning Cry It Out, which was at Simpatico Theater Company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I can never not name Allison Heichman, who runs Simpatico and was a big part of making First That Play possible. And my involvement, I had just had a little one. I don't talk about my little one's age or name online, but I often refer to them as Spider-Man. So if I'm talking about Spider-Man randomly, that's who I'm talking about. I have a little one and they had just been born, and it was a very trying time. I thought I was going to be out of directing for a really long time. And through a grant from PAAL and a matching donation or effort of support from Simpatico, we were able to have childcare on site. We were able to have, for both people who were working on the production and audience members, we were able to have inclusive casting, namely having caregivers in the cast, making a schedule that they could come to, a family and caregiver supportive schedule. And it's one of my proudest moments, and it's one of the productions that we look to when people say, all of these things you propose, can you do them? Do they actually work? And we say, yes, I have personally done them. So many people across the country have lived this life. So yeah, it's a proud moment. Again, these are some great pictures. I want to, so the Cry It Out, yep, that's a picture that we got in HowlRound. For this great article that Nicole Brewer wrote that literally everyone should check out about caregivers in theater and how offering one solution often harms very marginalized communities, and that you have to be really thoughtful about the harm that may have existed in those spaces and how that informs the care that people can receive as caregivers or for their children. So this is Newton, Severin, Brandy, Angelica, myself, Monica, and Noel. This is the cast, the assistant director, and the stage manager, and many of them were caregivers. As you can see, we represented all different life experiences, and it was really incredible and affirming, and something that I dreamt and never thought would actually come true. So that was incredible. Also here, I want to call out the National Urban Change Maker picture. This is myself, Rachel, and the star of Bees and Honey, which is one of 2 shows I was excited to be able to see that Soul Project co-produced. And this year, it's so funny because we're a shared leadership team, but often we're not in the same physical space because we live in different cities and all this. And I just was like, this year I'm going to see things. I'm going to, buy tickets. I'm going to get there. So I was able to see plays at the Public where Garlia had done some incredible work, and plays, with MCC and also Sancocho. I actually got a opportunity to facilitate with Sancocho. Thank you, Adriana, for bringing me onto that afterwards. But these 2 incredible award-winning plays just represent not just that we are incredible leaders in this room, but outside, and being able to support each other. And Rachel and I were like running there, and we got to eat empanadas in the rain. It was the most incredible experience. But it just affirms like what incredible artists we are, along with advocates, and how affirming it is to have these people on the same team. So yeah, that's what those pictures are. But thank you, and I will pass it to Rachel.
I think I didn't anticipate how hard it was going to be to follow all of my amazing colleagues. I mean, just off of pure emotion. But as you can see, they're all so incredible, and it's such an honor, truly. My name is Rachel Junqueira Spencer Hewitt, pronounced she, her. I am a 5'7" brunette, half Brazilian, half American, wearing a gray sweatshirt, Brazilian pride. And I am the National Executive Director of Partnerships, Programming, and Resources at PAAL. as you can see with these pictures, a lot of our work overlaps. Some of the work that I have helped support is the PAAL Handbook of Best Practices, the research and interviews and building some of the chapters in there. I also have been very pleased with this, with the recent influx of childcare matinees and this team's incredible support as we even develop partnerships across the country, including most recently on Broadway. And as the Director of Partnerships, Programming and Resources, what really excites me is that everything that you just heard all these incredible folks talk about, I get to help facilitate too, making sure that there's support underneath them so that they can make sure to bring those things to fruition. This photo here is me speaking on a panel years ago on caregiver support at a TCG conference. And I had hired a babysitter to meet me in New York while living in Philadelphia. And I took my 2 kids on the train. This is my youngest, who was with the babysitter in the hallway, but who was always a gifted escape artist, and came running into the room and down the aisle without fear and climbed up into my lap halfway through the panel and just finished it while climbing actively on me. And I will say that I want to thank him for helping me, share what my point in the room was, which was having conversations about how our lives are undeniable. And so any system or any institution or any opportunity that is asking us to work as though we could deny those responsibilities is asking us to lie, is asking us to not tell the full truth about our access needs, and is asking us to not tell the full truth about who we are. The actor advocate piece, I use the same photos to Tamanya because it's one of my favorites. And just, amplifying that, I think that so many times we see this work being done in terms of a single discipline. And what's been really powerful to have this shared leadership team is we are very passionate about making sure that the advocacy is also interdisciplinary. Making sure that, whether you're working crew backstage, whether you're a producer, whether you're admin, whether you're on stage, that you feel advocated for as having equal resources on whatever contract you're on or space that you're in. And that does mean that we, customize solutions, but you're so deserving of that we want to also always name our artistry as a way to make sure that you have full invitation in this space to name yours as well, and not your resume, your artistry, which you get to claim no matter what. And then the intergenerational change photo, this is just showing the generations. This is my sister on the left, my mom holding me, and my grandmother in Brazil. And my mom is an incredible artist, and my sister is now teaches drama in a high school, is an incredible actor. And my grandmother was always very passionate about music and the arts. And I didn't realize growing up as a kid that how seriously my mother had invested in that until I found her ballet shoes in a box one day. And I was surprised as a preteen that she used to take piano and play. And it just, the other piece of this shared leadership team is that we bring stories like this into the room, and we all have different stories, diverse stories, but they all lead us to some very valuable insights that we want to always create a space where not only is the leadership shared, but so are the stories. So is your history, so is the legacy that you are a part of. And so, we can transition into the conversation now, but I think removing isolation is a conversation we've had a lot recently. And that's one of the pieces that identifying intergenerational realities and welcoming those into our theater spaces, I think will remove a lot of the isolation. It's not just about access, it's also about improving the culture and community. So that's us.
That is us. So this is the first year actually that we're also streaming to LinkedIn. So I love seeing yeah, I love seeing people just look at LinkedIn. We're also live streaming on Facebook, also on YouTube. So there is always that ability to connect, even though we're not in the same place physically. So let's just jump into the conversation. Yeah, go for it, Rachel. Ask us
Sure.
something.
Sure. We already started, so much in our introductions, and that's, to Manya's thought was to bring photos into the offering. And this is something that we're going to be asking folks who are joining us in the Zoom space as well. So if you're watching us live, please feel free to jump in like right now in real time. But we also invite folks to share in the chat. What is one word that comes to mind for each of us when we think of shared leadership, just as a concept? And I'll throw the ball to Garlia first.
Thank you, because I was like, oh, I have lots to say about that. Shared leadership. I always want to be positive, but it can be challenging. That's my one word.
And throw the ball. Who would you want to throw the ball to?
Oh, me. Okay.
Any of us, yeah.
Oh, I will throw the ball to Adriana.
So in a dreamy dream world, right? One word, supported. Tamanya.
Wow. I am neurodivergent, so I'm gonna pretend everything I say is one word, because I talk really fast. So I would say sparkling vulnerability and growth. And I think by that it means being a shared leader, you have to be really honest about who you are and really honest about who the people you're working with are. And that can be hard. But also I think that it can lead to you growing as a person and the organization growing. And at the same time, it can still be really difficult. So I think holding both. And I will throw it to you, Rachel. And I also want to name, if it's okay to read things from the chat, if that's okay with everyone, from Rivka, flocking, which I think is such an interesting word.
Thank you. Yeah. That sounded like a word to me, Tamanya, because like there's a word and then there's a word and you can drop a word. Yeah, the word that comes to mind for me, I mean, I also have two, is collaboration and evolution. That it's, leadership that's not stagnant. Yeah, that's what I'd offer. And flocking in the chat, we welcome you to expand on that, Rivka. That's really wonderful. And Garlia mentioned challenges. And the next question is, inviting us to share a little bit more before we deep dive into the, healing portion of it later on in the conversation. But, part of doing this work well, I feel so often, is the honesty that we can have about the challenges, and what comes up. So I'd love to throw the ball first to Adriana, and then I'm gonna ask Adriana to say the next question too, so we can share throwing the ball. But what would be one of the challenges that come up for you in terms of shared leadership? And it can be general or PAAL, it can be no rules.
Yeah, it's interesting because as someone who started as an actor and as a performer, I never saw myself or even thought I would be in a leadership position, right? So that transition also was kind of huge for me, that that was even a possibility or an option. But in the spaces that I have been given that opportunity, they're all shared leadership positions. Latinx Theater Commons was the first opportunity that I had. So I would say that one of the challenges is, if the shared leadership is a lot of people, that's definitely challenging, because you do have to move things along and you have to make decisions, right? And so when there's a large group and there's so many voices, it can be difficult at times. The process can be slower. And then when the shared leadership is smaller, maybe bandwidth can be a challenge. Everyone is working on different schedules, and different life things are going on. And sometimes, things are due at the same, everything comes, at the same time. It's like, it'll be like slow and nothing will be going on. And then all of a sudden, like everything will be due and everything will be going on at the same time. So that's challenging when you're balancing, when you're trying to balance both.
Manu, what do you think? Challenges.
I think something I try to do in my work, and part of what the work I do with PAAL is we offer an anti-oppression training. So I'm always trying to make sure that I'm applying lenses that are different than the ones that I grew up with, or that, and I don't mean in my family, but like in school or in other systems that were based on white supremacy, based on oppression. So I try to start from the indigenous belief that some indigenous community hold, that we have everything we need. And I think that that makes for really creative problem solving with challenges, but accepting that, like, it's not the capitalists like buying one more thing and finding more solution and taking, you know what I mean? And not that that isn't great to like support yourself with whatever you need, but just believing that like the solutions are in these people, are in this room. But how do we, instead of trying to bend those people to a system that is harming them, how do we use what they have, use their strengths, employ their passions, and come at the challenges that way. And also, I think ebbing and flowing. I know that when in PAAL spaces, sometimes the first time someone is there, it's like you all introduce yourself for a long time, or you do this for a long time, or you move really slow. And understanding that like the pace of rushing is, again, like deeply rooted in white supremacy and pretending that we don't have enough of what we need. And so I think that too, like, challenges sometimes force you to change pace in a way that you don't always want, or that you're not always ready for. But I think sometimes slowing down, or again, like Adriana was talking about, speeding up, sometimes that can fuel creativity, but it also teaches you where you need to protect your energy, and where you need to be like, okay, this is a boundary I'm going to set. I cannot participate in this way, or I cannot participate at this time, or, I'm going to have a caregiving, I have a caregiving emergency. I would love to do the thing I said, but I can't. So I think that, yeah, like that's how I try to look at challenges. And also understanding that, like, not every challenge is going to have a solution necessarily. Sometimes it's just like, we're learning that this is something we're going to need to live with. Like, we're learning that this is going to be part of our frame now. So I think that's, for me, that's a big thing that I've learned, especially in this space, because there's such care and there's such gentleness, I think, about how we navigate each other and each other's fluctuating lives, that I think that's something I'm trying to take everywhere. That we don't have to rush, we don't have to push, we don't have to shame to get people to participate. If we meet people where we're at, and that's a PAAL concept that was before me, following our passions, like that. The work that can get done will get done in the way it needs to get done, and what can't be gotten done, we'll figure out for next time.
100%. Thank you. Garlia, what comes up for you?
I've been part of an organization that's had a shared leadership model for about 13 years. And so the early years were very exciting, I think, as everybody just was interested in the work, and we've been very successful with the work that we do. And I think as time went on, people grow, needs become different. The things that you want from your self and your colleagues are different. You learn the different things about yourself, and just working with an organization. And so that's where challenges, can, certainly present themselves. And so it's also thinking about how we move through those. And it also requires learning yourself and knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are, which can be pretty challenging when you learn with a group of people, because there's also a vulnerability that's required to say, oh, I was wrong, and how to not feel like what your work colleagues are saying can feel punitive, and I think like that's really hard, right? That's something that's been very hard for me. It's also really hard because you're also building trust, right, with those people. You need to know that they're looking out, like they have your back. And I will also say that that dynamic can feel different amongst different genders, in the way that people present themselves with their gender identity, that there is something that can also feel challenging with shared leadership. I think you have to take so many different things into account, right? And so these are just like observations I think I've had over years of doing this, and just knowing how it can feel challenging, but there's also something but like, even though I said it feels challenging, that's been the model for 13 years. So something about it must work, right? So something about it, right? It's like you must take the good with the bad. And I think at a certain point, we with this particular group are really looking at how we adjust that model a little bit to kind of fit where we're all at now. So I think like a shared leadership requires trust, requires a lot of communication, requires knowing the people and knowing that they have your back in a way, and that we're in like a supportive space. Which I definitely, I think feel strongly in PAAL with this leadership team.
Yeah, I feel like you said a lot of the words that came to mind for me too. I've been on kind of some shared leadership. PAAL, I would say, is one of the first truly shared leaderships, or the closest to shared leadership that I've experienced, even if folks were offering shared leadership, which is not to say that we do it perfectly at all, because we'll deep dive some of that too of what we're exploring. But the understanding around the vulnerability, something that shared leadership will highlight, which I don't necessarily see as the challenge of shared leadership inherently, but the challenge to the people in the shared leadership is it will highlight what Garlia said, your vulnerabilities in a different way. It definitely helps me learn where my strength is in support and where I need to ask for help. And as a caregiver, it's something I both want to continue to develop a high facility for doing, and often feel embarrassed to do. And so the challenge of shared leadership has also been its benefit for me, in that it cannot move forward unless I ask for help. Whereas when it's just a hierarchical leadership, at least I have seen folks in hierarchical leadership be able to press forward without vulnerability faster, more successfully because there's no collaboration needed. And so when there's no collaboration, you can kind of create the mold you want. I will say that the challenges of shared leadership around communication and structure and time, I have also seen in non-shared leadership. So I have a lot of questions around, it's not like not having shared leadership solves those things. So definitely the benefit of shared leadership for me has outweighed those challenges 100%. And I think that the question that continues to come up for me, and the reason why I shared evolution at the top, is how we stay both reliable for each other while remaining agile for the changes in each other's lives. So as individuals, we can voice our need in the space. And as caregivers, it's going to change in 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, today. And so, we're all asking that question when we're in other spaces. How can I be a reliable worker, et cetera, et cetera? And PAAL's saying, no, how can that organization be a reliable support for you? But what we're also looking for, at least in this challenge of shared leadership, is how can we be both reliable and agile for each other? And so much of what folks have brought up, Tamanya, with, the slowness and the pace, Adriana with the collaboration and the showing up, Garlia talking about the vulnerability. I deeply believe just as Tamanya said, as Indigenous practice, the answers are inside of there. And the word evolution comes to mind for me is because there's no answer that will be present perfect, right in the moment and right in the future. It's about making a practice of engaging with that moment's challenge and staying fresh on the solution that matches it. So the challenge is the fact that shared leadership is alive. It's not a plastic plant in the corner. It's actually something you have to water and be like, the sun is different this season. The wind is different this season. It takes research. It takes speaking to the plant. Like, it is something we're growing together. And so Tamanya said this word too. The challenge of shared leadership is that it necessitates a practice of care. That's what I would say. What a beautiful challenge, but totally the work. Totally the work. I'm not gonna pretend it's either. Yeah. That would be my answer for that.
And is it okay if I upload a few things that are in the chat? Because I think they're really getting to that. For Rivka, thinking of Adrienne Marie Brown's murmurations, collective leadership is moving together, taking breaks, and trusting that the flock can sustain the movement. And Fly, I love all the language around the challenges of shared leadership. I feel like what you just said about trust and communication and support is also exactly the description of what it takes to parent and co-parent. So just want to uphold that.
That is so great. So let's move on to another question. What can shared leadership heal? I think that one needs to land for a little bit, right? So whoever wants to go first.
I was just going to say, I feel like shared leadership can heal the need to always have the right answer, or the need to always be correct, or say what, be the one who has the solution. And what I find can get sticky is, and I'm guilty of this constantly, is wanting to be the person that has the answer and not allowing the answer to come from the group. And if the answer comes from the group, there's this feeling of, well, who's going to get credit for that answer? Because I said it, but then you built on it. So is it really your, like, which feels really so silly, but we all know it's like, it is so true. And so that sense of like letting go and having it be the group, or giving one person all the flowers and being like, okay, you can get this whole thing. Whew, even saying that is like, okay, your ego is literally holding on to it like, I said the word the. Can I get the? Can I get that? Just give it to them. But why? Because, whew, that is really gonna take a lifetime to hear that stuff. So that's what I would say.
And pulling in the chat from Vanessa, shared leader can heal the desire to be perfect.
Yeah, I want to upvote that. Thank you for sharing and that from the chat, Tamanya and Garlia, when you were like, just kind of that cold sweat of giving the flowers. I mean, I've experienced it coming back to the word trust, that if I'm generous with you, I have to trust that you won't erase me. And in spaces where there hasn't been shared leadership, I feel like there's so much labor that happens underneath for the person at the peak to take and receive the credit and manage the credit, like then to like trickle down effect the credit. And it's, at least in me, created a lot of like self-preservation fear that, really starting on this work with PAAL, like 2017, as a parent, I realized you really can't, there's no self-preservation there. Like there's so much invisible labor. So what's the difference between someone witnessing you that you also trust enough to share full support and credit to? And so the PAAL leadership has definitely helped me on that healing journey of being able to say, like, you know what, there is a commitment of trust, that the generosity is going to mean everyone lifts up together. And I will also add to the word trust, being intentional, because it doesn't happen by accident. Like, it won't just happen as a result. That it would be a call, to our continued practice, and anyone who's interested in shared leadership, that, someone being generous and giving you credit and you giving them trust is not just going to organically kind of flow, flexible, happen, but that it's spoken out loud as an intentional practice, as the only way it's going to exist in a way that's consistent at all. So I think shared leadership can heal, intentional shared leadership can heal that trust in that relationship.
I think for me, and this is, I don't exactly remember who said it, but somebody just said it. This is a very juicy conversation, and I agree. This is such a juicy convo from Fly. I think something it heals too is, I'm not exactly sure how to put this, but when you're taught to not be yourself in a space over and over again, you start to kind of lose track of who you are and what you want and your creativity. And like you break that bond a little bit every time you mask and pretend to be someone you're not, or try to live up to a really unreasonable expectation. And I think what your leadership can do is it can teach you to like rebuild those bonds in a way that feels like the bottom's not going to fall out. You know what I mean? There are 4 of us, there are 4 sets of ideas, there are 4 solution generators here, there are 4 different life experiences. So I think that that's so healing for me, because often, like, first as a neurodivergent person, but also as a Latin person, a Mexican American person, assimilation is a big part of like how my ancestors like survived. And I think that learning to sort of take off those things and be honest to who I am and true to who I am and true to, like, again, who I want to be creatively and who I want to welcome into my spaces. I think what it also heals is like feeling like you have to be in those spaces where you cannot be yourself, or where being yourself is so dangerous that, and I want to add, as Rachel keeps saying, intentional shared leadership, but it allows you to grow and blossom and thrive in a way that other spaces may have intentionally shut down. So you will, be on the productivity train, you will do the thing, you will listen to the people above you without question. And I think shared leadership intentionally fosters less of that. Like, it fosters more of like, no, tell me the truth about that. No, let's get curious about that. Like, why or how, or what do you think, in a way that, again, hierarchical leadership can really shut down, because it is about that. I need the credit. I need the, the win. I need to make sure everyone knows that I was the best. And yeah, and again, speaking, like, I think, we were talking about, Rachel was so generously talking about her mom earlier. My mom is here in this room, which is such an incredible gift. But I think I learned that first from her. My mother had, I always like to say I am, because she was an incredible social justice advocate. She, in every space she was in, she wanted more fairness and more openness and more ideas, and the best idea could come from anywhere in the room. And I think I always looked for that in spaces, and it was never there. And it always made me feel like, oh, am I doing this wrong? Am I listening too much? Am I being too, taking too long to get this done? And when you come into spaces like this, you're like, no, that wasn't wrong. That was kind of the source of the most gorgeous things, but you were taught to shut that down so that somebody else could like run things and just push everything through. So I think, like, what a gift to have seen that in my mother and my father and the way they raised me, but also like to finally be affirmed and finding like, yes, that can be successful. Yes, that can be the source of productivity and creativity. So thanks, Mom.
They're so wonderful. Took me, I had to sit with it. It didn't, it's something that didn't come right away. Or the words didn't come right away, right? But when all of you use certain terms, I'm like, yes, that. I just sometimes don't have the words. The feeling of erasure. I've been in places where, yes, I've said something, right? I'm more of a quiet person, so I'll offer up an idea, but maybe I'm not heard, either through volume or just through maybe my energy is not loud enough, right? And then maybe another person who is louder will say it, and then I feel diminished, right? I feel like erased. Or if it's a space where maybe I'm the only woman in the room, that's happened a lot. One of the things that I do feel that it heals and is it heals like the unrealistic expectations that you have to hold everything. It gives you permission, the permission to be able to say no and to say, I need help. There are spaces sometimes where I feel like if I say no, that the opportunity is going to be given to someone else. And sometimes I'm being asked to do too much. But sometimes it's you have to create your own opportunities, and those opportunities are so few to learn that it's being afraid, right, to say like, this is not enough time, this is not, So when you have a shared leadership, it's so wonderful. And this is why I love PAAL, is because we can talk about these things, or we're very honest with each other. And, we'll say, this week is an intense week. I can respond tomorrow morning, or I can try to aim to get back to you by Friday, but just a heads up, there's a lot going on. And we don't make each other feel bad about that. Or we don't make each other feel like, oh, well, all right, so then, you're not committed enough. So we're going to give this opportunity to someone else. Or like, maybe you shouldn't be part of PAAL, and I think that happens a lot, or at least I experience that a lot in different settings and different, and it's not, I don't think it's something that it's like intentional. It's just something that, just because of certain, the fast pace of things, or like the expectations that have always been that we're trying to get away from. We're so used to those certain ways of being and working, that still is present. And so, yeah, so those are my thoughts.
That's a word. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's amazing. I'm going to offer the next question in the chat and invite Tamanya. Do you feel you can share the next question?
All right, I have, where do you hope shared leadership evolves for PAAL? And I will leave that open to anyone who feels like they want to answer.
I'm sorry. Like I'm always going.
Do
I
it.
feel like the work that PAAL does is pretty incredible, and there's this possibility of some real growth that enables the programming to exist in so many different spaces, right? Like when we talk about PAAL being national, I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to just continue to engage with those national partners and really build that out, because there are so many. I've lost count. I know Tamanya or Rachel can tell the exact number, but the number of actual PAAL chapters, and then when I go on Instagram, the number of all these other PAAL Instagram handles, I'm like, what is happening? But it's also because it's so needed, right? Like people are craving what PAAL has to offer. And so for the national org to really spearhead so much of this growth, I think that's where I see such excitement and power and strength for this future, because caregiving is not a new conversation, but like I even the former first lady Rosalind Carter, she was really focused on caregiving, right? I mean, and so thinking about even this being part of a legacy that she was, that she can be included in, and she can have all the flowers. She can have all the flowers, right? But yeah, just thinking about that, right? Thinking about how we can truly grow, like really take it to that next national stage, because it's so needed, as evidenced by the many chapters we have. And the active ones too. They're very active. Yeah.
And to answer your question, Garlia, I believe we have 16 active chapters now. We actually just added 2 new chapter reps, and one is in this room. I don't want to identify them. They don't want to be identified, but if they'd like to identify themselves, we do have a chief rep in this room. So we have a number of chief reps in this room. Actually, a number of the leaders speaking are chief reps, and also someone who is in the Zoom room with us. So 16, I believe 16, or thereabouts, very close. We just added someone in Detroit and someone in New Jersey who are doing the work with us. So yeah, that's our number. And like you're saying, very active chapters have all different kinds of ways of coming about this. They have affinity spaces in theaters. They hold meetups in the park with their communities. They are on committees to work with unions to make sure that, that caregiving is considered. Like they do childcare matinees. So like just lots of different things. They work on theater alliances to make sure that like the theaters are coming together and have enough resources, especially coming through COVID. So yep, they'll do lots of great work.
We have a couple minutes left before we move into a Q&A session internally here in Zoom. I would say that I would love to continue exploring and growing the wonderful way that we try to find that balance, right? That we try to recognize that our capacity and bandwidth fluctuates. And then, try to see how to be really efficient when we do have those times, those free shared times that we have together. I'll share something that happened with everybody. For example, it's so random, but like we won't plan a meeting. Like we'll try to plan a meeting and then everyone's schedule is all over the place. But then sometimes it's like, oh, it'll be like a last minute thing. And all of a sudden, like the 4 of us are available. And then we'll have like such a long, productive meeting. So it's funny how those things happen. But I definitely want to continue growing and exploring this way of working, because it's a way where you feel supported and you do feel like you can do so many things, right? You can be fulfilled artistically, but you can also be fulfilled as a human being because there are other things that are going in your life that you want to accomplish. So I love the idea of continuing to dream and play and explore that.
Huge upvote for everything y'all said. Okay, yes, and let's do it. Okay, so it's so exciting to hear these visions shared. So folks listening, we have these conversations internally and the visions that get shared among the 4 of us. The summit's so exciting because we get to share them with all of you. If you all have thoughts, I just want to take a quick second to invite you to share in the chat or an email or in comments, like what's inspiring you right now, but where you would love to see shared leadership go. For what's coming to mind for me, it's a huge yes to everything that was shared, and also something that directly stems from this place of healing is, I think, at least all of us, but I'll speak for myself, I anticipated that shared leadership would like bring good things. I anticipated that it would at least cure one of the situations, which is this industry that is designed to be collaborative is pursued in isolated form. What is that? Problematic. And I was like, well, maybe if advocacy can be shared, then the practice is more consistent. You're sharing in the process, not just in the project and the result. You're sharing throughout the year conversation. So that happened. What surprised me was the real potential for this shared leadership to be so complementary, to where, any neurodivergence on my part, or, I'll just share, I struggle with some numerical retention and pieces like that, has provided an opportunity for us to create systems of support where there might be someone else who makes a recommendation for how to create a system that supports multiple people at once. And then when we engage with other folks, it's never just on me to like run the calendar and run this and proofread and creative. I realize that I'm not having to wear all the hats in a single project, but that I have access to multiple minds to lead a project in a shared way. But truly, there is so much opportunity here to create new things, or create things that have been advocated for in the past, or at least create a new thing for how advocacy can run, how service can run, which I'm sure other spaces have done, but perhaps even new to us and new to our experience. So what I'm excited for the future of shared leadership at PAAL is for us to continue seeing these this as an opportunity to create according to the access needs, the what do you need question of the people in the room, and not just the prescription of like what a nonprofit should look like on the outside. It's an opportunity to continue to challenge that because it's so broken. But that shared leadership, we get to evolve in a new direction that pulls away from the prescription in the moments where it's built in a way that's harmful. So an opportunity to grow toward healing. Yeah. I'm excited for that, to discover new ways of healing. There it is in a sentence. Okay.
And I would just pull a few things from the chat first. Ann Goodman is the chief rep for New Jersey. So she said, hi. And then from Vanessa, shared leadership equals shared ownership, which I think is a lot of what all of us are talking about. And Gloria, PAAL volunteers share in the glory of the shared leadership model as well. Gloria is one of our volunteers, so that's a piece of it. Fly, once again, the parallels between isolation of parenting and the isolation of leadership and advocacy in PAAL is so real for me. And then from Rivka, thank you so much for this. Looking forward to learning more from you all through the weekend. So, and I just want to drop my thing into real quick. I think that in the first 5 years of PAAL, we were kind of getting our sea legs and like building these new structures that some of us had never seen exist before. And that is work, that is hard. So I think now that we have built a lot of them and are settling into like how they can support and how they can give voice and how they can create authenticity and creativity, like I think that the big ideas we've been like wrestling around with are now going to suddenly come flowing out of us in a way that's going to be really exciting, because the structures now exist. Like we did the scaffolding. Now we can, now we can build the building, which I think will, and not that we haven't done incredible things already, but I think like now we can build on them and do even more incredible things. So.
Thank you so much, Tamanya, Rachel, and Garlia. This has been a wonderful conversation. Just a reminder that if you want to join all the sessions for the rest of the summit, go to paaltheater.com/summit. We have an affinity space this evening, Motherhood, sharing your sustainable healing practices, and that will be at 6 p.m. Eastern time. That will not be streamed, so that will be a Zoom meeting. And then we have some wonderful other sessions coming up. The first one tomorrow morning is going to be at 10:30 in the morning Eastern time, HR Healing in the Workplace. That will be streamed for the first part, how to articulate providing care as an asset both as and to employers. Which we are really excited about. Vanessa is leading that conversation. So go to the website, see the other sessions that are coming on, because there's also a lunch and learn. There is a childcare matinee on Saturday. So lots of stuff happening. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you soon. For the folks that are in the room, we're gonna just quickly check in with each other and thank you so much